Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pillars of Progress podcast. I'm your host, Travis Justice with MCL Construction, and today we're diving deep into the heartbeat of the Omaha community, exploring the transformative power of philanthropy, education, and civic engagement. Joining me today is a man who wears many hats, Tre Brashear. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Lozier Enterprises and a key leader at the Lozier Foundation. We're talking about a transformative project in North Omaha, the North High Stadium and Butler-Gast YMCA project. The Lozier Foundation is all about leveling the playing field and creating opportunities where they're needed most, specifically with wellness, education, jobs, and housing. Now, Tre is also passionate about music. Did you know he's one of the original founders of the Maha Music Festival? And the festival returns to the Omaha Riverfront on August 8th. Please welcome the insightful and community-driven Tre Brashear. Tre Brashear, welcome to the Pillars of Progress podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Do you do a lot of podcasts?
No, I don't. This is a new experience for me.
We're going to talk a lot about the Lozier Foundation, but I want to get something on the table right away, and that's Maha that's coming up in August. You're a big supporter of Maha. I've been there since like day one, right?
Yes, I'm part of the core group that founded it back in 2009. That was our first Maha, and yes, we're coming back this August, back on the riverfront again. We returned to the riverfront last year. That went very well. So August 8th is an exciting lineup. Ticket sales are going well. We've got our most requested headliner this year, which is Wet Leg. It's an emerging buzzy band out of the UK, in addition to local favorites, Bright Eyes. So them and Killer Mike are kind of our top three headliners.
How'd you get into the indie music scene? I'm intrigued by that. I mean, you and I are about the same age, so I'm curious how you got into because I'm a country music guy, right?
I would say I don't know that I'm, in the inner workings of it so much as I'm someone who originally was attracted to the idea of kind of the activation of community, the creating of a fun event, the kind of the connectedness that comes together. I mean, I'm an indie music listener, I'm a fan, but I'm not part of that core kind of Benson crowd that's really doing it, working it in the business all the time. I'm someone who had a willingness to spend some time and energy and thought that Omaha could benefit from having something like this, because back in 2007-8, when we were first talking about it, there wasn't the variety of live music that there is today. There's so much live music now with Steelhouse and the Astro and all sorts of things that have come online. I don't know that we would start Maha today in this environment, but Maha now has a place. People are attached to it. It's an annual event and people look forward to it. So we're happy to keep doing it.
It used to be a 2-day event, if I remember correctly, and it's a 1-day event now. I mean, putting a music festival on or a music event is not an easy thing to do, is it?
No, it's not. It's death by 1,000 cuts is the example I always give. That there's nothing that's really wrong, but the lead up to it is always pretty amazing in terms of how many little details there are, and then there's the one-off requests of somebody who's like, hey, how can I get a VIP ticket? They're still sold out. Like you procrastinated, and that becomes someone else's problem. But
saying no is pretty easy for you then, I take it, right?
Well, sometimes it's a matter of necessity. It's a labor of love. You want to say yes, but doing the festival itself has been fun for me because I have made a lot of lifelong friends that I would not have met and made but for doing Maha. It's expanded my circles of who I knew and gave me experiences I would never have known anything about. And now I consume music differently and I attend other events differently because I see it more from the how are they flowing people, how are they taking money, where are lines queuing up. So whenever I go to another festival, then it's a whole exercise and like, what are they doing and should we be doing that? And
what's the biggest thing you've learned or surprised you by putting on a big event like that?
I think the biggest thing that's a good question. I would say for me, the most eye-opening fact is that and this is going to sound jaded, but it's a business. And we're a nonprofit, so none of us take any money out. We don't get anything for doing it. It's just a labor of love for the community. And so there's this belief that because we're well-intentioned, the artist should somehow give us a favor or do something, like work at a discount, et cetera. But this is their livelihood. This is their living. They have so many summer Saturdays, and Saturdays are the most expensive, highest earning days for them. And their agents work on a percentage basis for whatever they book for the artists. So I don't think us being a nonprofit ever factors into the equation, ever, as much as we wish it did. So we pay the same price as Omaha pays the same price. We pay the same price for a performer, as in Wet Leg, our headliner this year. Friday night, they're playing Outside Lands Festival in San Francisco. Sunday, they're playing, I forget the festival's name, but that's in the Seattle area. And so we're paying in Omaha, even though we're a much smaller MSA, we're paying the same price for Wet Leg to perform at Maha as those other two much larger MSAs are paying.
And our artists, they want to get paid, and that's what they do. That's what they do for a living. I
can't fault them for that, even though I wish that they would somehow give us the nonprofit discount of X off. So
you've mentioned the word community several times in our conversation already. Now, you are the COO of Lozier Enterprises, which is also an extension of the Lozier Foundation. And the foundation is extremely active in a lot of parts and making just so many good things happen in the community. And let's talk about one right now that's taking place. It's probably the most visible would be at North High School, the new stadium and the new YMCA. Why get involved with stuff like that?
Well, that's core to why we, the foundation, exists. We're trying to do things that wouldn't happen but for our involvement, and fundamentally we actually use our tagline as we're trying to level the playing field. And in this case, we truly are. Like, there's been a gross inequity in Omaha in that North High has existed for more than 100 years, accomplished great things, and it's never had its own field, even though every other OPS high school has its own field, including the two most recently built ones. Now, some of those are more easily explained because you buy a huge tract of land, you have room to put a field. And the narrative has always been there was no place to put a field for North High, and so that's why they didn't have one. But we recognize the fact that the YMCA property across the street had a pretty large parcel that wasn't used very densely. And so we brainstormed the idea that could you move the YMCA to make it kind of up in a corner, if you will, share a parking lot, and then would you have room to build a stadium? And sure enough, you do. And so we ran with it because those kids, that community, the family that is North Omaha North, they deserve the same kind of excitement and ability to walk across the street from their high school and attend their events and play soccer and have the band perform and practice and do everything else that all the other schools do, the sense of pride and place. And then the synergy that comes from having the YMCA co-located such that YMCA activities will happen within the building itself, and then YMCA activities will also take place on the field when Omaha North isn't using it. North students will use the Y, and it's kind of become a community hub, and we hope it facilitates more development kind of down Ames Street and all around it.
You know, the Lozier Foundation, it supports a lot of educational opportunities. Do you view the stadium as an educational opportunity? Because athletics brings a community together. It can unite a community.
It absolutely can unite a community. It creates pride, and candidly, I think for some students, it's a hook. It keeps kids interested in going to school and attending and staying eligible and doing those things. So for many kids, it's a safety net. I know that the coaches at North view themselves as mentors and having kind of being involved with those kids and giving them structure and having them learn the lessons of life, whether or not they're going to play high school, whether they're going to play football beyond high school. Like hardly any student at any high school does. Like that's,
it's a fraction.
Every 8-year-old wishes that they're going to play NFL football, and very, very few do. But what the lessons you learn in sports are the lessons that apply to your education. They're lessons that apply to the workforce, like grit, practice, doing the right thing when nobody's doing, recognizing some people are better than you. Everybody has skills. Learning to be a good sport, learning to lose, learning to win graciously. All those things come from sports, and they're wonderful life lessons that every young person needs.
When you invest in, because I think some people will look at, a foundation comes in or private money. Do you ever get pushback from the investment you put in a neighborhood? Like people go, oh, there's an ulterior motive or anything like that. And how do you dispel that myth?
Well, it's interesting you would say that because I shouldn't say we've gotten, but there has been online chatter surrounding our offer to take over the activation and operation of Miller Park. So some people kind of speculated in unattributed sources type way. I'm hearing that, or I believe, and so that's the first time I think that we've really gotten a negative pushback to trying to initiate something in that regard. We're always sensitive. I believe we as an organization do a pretty good job of making sure we listen to the community, that we don't just decide in the abstract, we know what's best and we're going to implement it. We try and hear from people. We try and get that feedback. So generally, no, but the world is changing. I think people anymore love to believe conspiracy theories. They love to believe that the fix is in all things. And so it's not to say we won't hear more of it, but the Miller Park was the first time really that somebody questioned our intentions, and that was interesting and frustrating.
Now, a lot of people may not understand what a foundation does. For people go, well, can I just apply for money? But you guys are pretty zeroed in on jobs, wellness, housing, education. I mean, you guys are pretty zeroed in on those aspects. For people who may not know, what does a foundation do? A
foundation is it's a charitable organization created, in our circumstance, created by Alan Lozier and Diane Lozier. And so they're the funders of it. Although that same family owns Lozier Store Fixtures, and it's a large employer in North Omaha and well-known, the Alan and Diane are the actual funders of the organization. But we exist to try and facilitate, I would say, providing quality of life improvements, providing opportunity, providing tools and skills such that people can have better lives. Alan, at his core, wanted philanthropy and wanted the things that the foundation focused on to be about giving people choice. It's not just enough to give someone food so that they live. Have them actually have a life such that they can pick their food. It's not just sheltering somebody, but have them have an income and have a life and have an education such that they can actually pay for a house and own a house and take their family on vacation, do those kinds of things. So not just, do the bare minimum, but actually kind of create an improvement or a quality of life such that, people actually control their own destiny, if you will.
I got to meet Alan one time. Absolutely fascinating person. I mean, just a wonderful man. I met Diane a couple times, but his commitment to North Omaha is obvious everywhere you go. And what they start with, like 50 employees back in the 50s, and they're up to 2,500 now?
It's a true American success story, absolutely. And it's a little bit of a right idea, right time, because making shelving isn't very glamorous. We all focus on the product that sits on the shelving. We don't focus on the shelving itself. But his idea of making the shelving adjustable with the slotting so that you can sell essentially the same shelving to all sorts of retailers. They'll make it the height they need, et cetera, because before it was one size and then that's it and you're stuck with it. So selling shelving at the time when America pivoted to shopping as its primary form of entertainment was a really great time, place, idea, connection.
So the education piece of it, many people may not know this, but the Nelson Mandela School was funded by the Lozier Foundation. That's been a success story. I believe so as well. I mean, has it been, 10, 12 years now it's been going?
More than 10.
Wow.
We now actually, it's an amazing story. It's amazing credit to Diane for her vision and Susan Toohey, who works at the foundation now, for her implementation of that vision and her own kind of contribution to that vision. But fundamentally, it was born out of a belief and a focus on education, as we talked about before, and a belief that education is the only way to really, at scale, create that improvement in life that allows people to have choice and kind of have their own opportunity to make their own way. And so the idea was that there was a better way to educate and deal with kids who come from disadvantaged communities. And in part, it was informed by Diane's experience with her own grandchildren who were taught a different way to read at the Phoenix Academy, which is an intervention school. And they used the Spalding reading method. And she was so amazed at how quickly the grandchildren got at or above grade level. Using Spalding. She wondered why all schools weren't using Spalding. And fundamentally, she believed that was a better way to teach and that there were other ways to instruct in math, and there's other ways to approach education generally. So, for example, at Mandela, there's 3 recesses a day. And recess is never taken away as a punishment because children need a break. They need to activate. They learn skills on. All the students at Mandela take violin because that creates. I'm out of my depth, but it creates brain connectivity between both sides of the brain. It actually has been proven to enhance critical thinking and developmental skills. So there's different ways to do education, and fundamentally, she believed that she was right, and she and Susan and in consultation with others believe that they're right, but yet you don't really know. And you can't ask someone to spend lots of money or move their student over or kind of change that trajectory until you've proven out the model. And so our belief was that we would prove out the model in the hope that then we can show to the other larger districts and even statewide or nationwide that people would say, no, there's different ways to approach education than we have been today. And the data that we're getting, the test scores we're getting, which is wonderful about education, it's the one area where you can really actually have some specific metrics to see whether you're making a difference, are showing good results there. And I would guess to say it's probably the foundation's greatest project and the one we're most proud of, because we don't take any state money from that. We don't want to do anything that would detriment public education. We're huge supporters of public education. So our intention is really to help provide skills or resources or teachings or learnings that can help public education as well. So, and I should also identify the William and Ruth Scott Foundation also contributes to the operation of Mandela. So we're the face of it, but they've been with us since.
So is it like a charter school or some similarities to it?
I would say it is similar. I mean, all schools have a certain amount of regulation in terms of what you have to teach, what you test to, those types of things. But it has more flexibility in terms of how you structure your day. For example, Mandela goes year-round because the data will tell you that there's a significant summer slide in educational outcomes. And so you spend the first part of the following year reteaching the back end of the prior year. And if you go to school year-round, you avoid that, so to speak. But
do the kids like that?
Well, the parents like it. They appreciate it. It provides a continuity in their life that there's not then a need to go find daycare, et cetera. So it's not that the summer is totally devoid of fun. The mornings are educational, but then the afternoons are enrichment or extracurricular type activities. So we try and make it not quite as intense as the school year proper, but that's a different mindset. That's a different way of doing things. And so if you're out of the public school system, we're not a charter school, but in that same way, if you're out of the public school system, you have more flexibility to try new things. And that's what we're doing.
Housing and affordable housing is also part of your mission and your vision. And you guys are going to put affordable housing along the streetcar route. Is that correct?
We are not doing the housing itself.
Okay.
What we did is the housing issue is really one that's kind of risen on our radar in the last few years. And Colette Lozier, a family member who works at the foundation, has really done a good job of educating us and elevating the need for it. And there's a critical demand for it across the community. And so we've decided to kind of step into that to a degree and help as best we can. And so we have been a longtime funder of Front Porch, which is you should probably have them on this podcast at some point because they're doing a lot of really great and creative things, trying to make Omaha an easier, faster place that you can build housing and especially affordable housing because there's such a screaming demand for it. But what Front Porch identified was a variety of projects that were ready to go, that could pass underwriting, that simply needed to have funding available to help them, just like on any kind of classic affordable housing project get done. It needed a little help. Affordable housing, the problem with it is it doesn't pencil out economically. You cannot build housing affordably. You need some kind of subsidy. And so we as a community have to say we're willing to provide subsidies to these developers such that then everyone has a place to live and work, especially if we want to grow and bring in more people. Everybody's got to live somewhere. So what we did is we entered into discussions with the city about helping jumpstart some of those projects that were ready to go, but not yet didn't have the funding available to them. And so the city issued an affordable housing bond. We purchased that bond. We're getting 1% interest on it. So it's not a huge moneymaker for us, but it's more that $40 million then will run through Front Porch and go fund those projects that were kind of in the pipeline just on hold. So the net effect of it is we're facilitating that housing being built. But
So
we're not doing
and accelerating it
We're
too.
accelerating. Yeah, we're speeding it up as opposed to it being on a twice a year basis of front porch making loan awards or grant awards. We're facilitating everything in their pipeline kind of beginning, which is great. And we hope that more funding comes, not just from philanthropy, but we hope the city sees the success in this and that more housing starts to get built and that we become more cooperative and more kind of open-minded to the need for affordable housing.
You brought up a foundation earlier. Do you work with other foundations when you see things that might be a good collaborative effort to say, hey, we should all come in on something
Absolutely. There's pretty good dialogue between the local foundations. Everyone has their focus areas, and everyone knows the things that people are or aren't interested in, but there's always good dialogue. And I would say for the most part, if somebody has a good idea, it's not competitive in that sense that if it's a good idea, we all recognize it's a good idea, and depending on how much money we have to give away or what the budget cycle is, we'll support other projects. So we like facilitating those things getting done. So no, there's no turf wars in any respect.
People can apply for grants, and I'll use the term just pitch ideas. How many ideas do you see a year come through on your desk?
We don't. We have an LOI process where someone can send a letter of intent, kind of a here's what we'd like to do kind of idea. So they can send it in through our website. And Diane reviews those directly. Like she's the one who's deciding whether or not, I see merit in this, or I don't know, but let's have them apply. Or saying, no, this is not something we're likely to fund. We're not going to make you jump through the hoops to turn around and tell you no. But I would say we typically see 80 new ideas a year.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And even if we decline, more than half of them, we still keep growing in that respect. So every time we say yes, Diane's already to a degree said, I at least kind of like the idea, or there's enough there to make me want to learn more. So our workload continues to increase. Take
Omaha North out of it. Take Nelson Mandela. Has there been? Give me a success story where you knew right away this was something that you wanted to get involved with. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
In terms of a larger scale project,
or it could be a small one too, but people may not even have heard of.
I think. Well, I know how many views this podcast gets, so I have to be really careful with who I pick and choose.
I'm not.
It's a good question. I think there's a lot of hidden success stories in Omaha. There's a lot of really great work being done by nonprofits, and I don't know that they do a great job of telling their story or puffing up their chest, because that's really not who they are, and it almost seems contrary to nonprofit work that you would seem as though you're marketing yourself. But we're all kind of competing for attention and volunteer time and donor time. And the one, I didn't know this question was coming, so you're truly just getting something that pops into my mind. And I always have a great appreciation for people who see something specific and targeted and necessary in the community that isn't being filled. And so the first name that comes to my mind is the diaper bank. And for those who aren't familiar, they buy diapers at bulk from the large diaper providers and then provide that out to people who can't otherwise afford it. And diapers are incredibly expensive.
Terribly expensive.
Amazingly expensive. And you churn through so many of them, and there is no public assistance. There is no program that pays for diapers.
Really?
None. Even people who are getting food assistance do not have any support for diapers. So that is a hole in our ecosystem. And this organization raises money and then works through local nonprofits who are in direct relationships with people who are, economically disadvantaged or needing of help. And so they provide them with diapers. And so that's all they do. And they do it statewide now. And it's like I'm so impressed by somebody who steps in, recognizes the need, efficiently fills the need, and they're growing because of it. But we as a community, so those are the things that always I think are kind of a secret success story.
I would say a secret is, I have 4 children and I've lived here since 1994. I've never heard of it, right? And it's just like, you're right. Tell the story. It's like that's fabulous. That's awesome. Yeah, so I'm glad you told that story. I didn't know about it, and that'd be so. If you'd never heard of that, now you have, and support them because diapers are expensive and they're needed very much so. So
we've done some activities as a group with my wife's family. We've done diaper wrapping parties where you're breaking up the larger packs of diapers and then you're putting them into smaller groups and you're wrapping them up so that then the nonprofit agencies can give them away, and they'll come to your workplace and do it. So you can even have a kind of a team building exercise, if you will, of wrapping up diapers, knowing that you're doing work, that these diapers, these packets you're putting together are then going to be distributed out to people that very much need them.
Do you we mentioned marketing yourself. Do you want the foundation to be front and center, or do you like it when it just kind of lays low and just maybe a silent partner, or a little bit of both?
We would prefer to not be out front. That's been consistent with how Alan and Diane have been their whole lives. It's not really about attention. It's not about naming rights or visibility. We just like doing the work, and we like seeing people's lives be improved through whatever we can do to assist.
Now, you're a lawyer.
I'm afraid so. Still licensed.
Hey,
yeah.
still licensed.
Uh-huh.
Is there? Were you just drawn to this instead of going into full-time law?
Yeah, I think, as evidenced by this podcast, there is an ability to be meaningful that I think is really gratifying for me personally. I mean, I practiced law with my dad and my brother and other people, and I enjoyed it, and I had wonderful client relationships. But candidly, your client relationships are a little skewed because you want your clients to need you as much as possible. But if they don't, if their business is operating well, they're not necessarily helping you. You're billing by the hour. It's almost a little adversarial in that way, where the more complicated the situation is, the better it is for you economically. But for me, it was more, I practiced law for 20 years, and I really enjoyed the nonprofits I worked with and the board service I had. And that filled my cup. And after 20 years, I didn't like the way the profession was moving. I didn't like kind of the, clients used to pay you to draft contracts for them. Now they'll pay you once, and then they want you to give them the Word document or the template, and they're not going to pay you for it anymore. So the directions to me were such that I didn't think it probably was the right career for me for the next 20 years. So I'm really fortunate in being able to get connected with Alan, Diane, and the foundation, and be able to work on the nonprofit side of it, because that's really is what filled my cup, and that's what brought me over, and it's a good way to get out of bed every day to go try and help people or make the community better. I
got a follow-up question to that, and you didn't know this question was coming either, but your dad was a politician. He was in the unicameral, speaker of the unicameral. Do you feel you could make a bigger difference in what you're doing now within a community than maybe in politics? I mean, he was there fighting a lot, but at the end of the day, do you make a bigger difference than you could in politics?
No, I think we can absolutely make a difference, but I think the decisions that get made at the state level impact everyone at such a level. Candidly, sometimes we're left dealing with the problems created by the decisions, or the values, I should say, that get reflected in what gets done or doesn't get done. I say this to people all the time, we're in a conservative, low-tax state, but fundamentally, every time we try and lower taxes, we are inherently saying we want government to be doing less. And we at the foundation start to see what happens when government does less. Who cares for people who have severe disabilities, who don't have family? Who cares for, the Flatwater Free Press has had a great couple of articles of late talking about how we don't have court-appointed guardians, or the ones that we have a woman who's facing theft charges, and she's still a court-appointed guardian for other wards of the state, even though it's highly questionable that she should continue in that capacity, but there's no one else to give those cases to, because we've continued to cut the funding for the people who serve in that capacity. So those are value judgments we're making in the state that's impacting hundreds of people across the state. So I think those decisions, at the state level in particular, the legislature, the governor, those decisions really can impact more people than we can. But we hope to try and lessen the impact of some of those decisions, and then we hope to maybe be a little more boots on the ground and be able to intervene and target things in a way that government wouldn't do. And candidly, kind of what's happening with the North Project is something I don't know that would have ever happened with the way our larger or governmental organizations work. Like, this was a very unique situation. It was a one-off. We did some diligence. We found some other funders, and we said, okay, let's do it, and we'll pay for it. So it's like, in a sense, they would have been hard-pressed to say no, but government doesn't work that way.
Yeah, well,
that's one of the advantages and speed of being independent.
And in OPS, I mean, you don't have to. The taxpayers aren't paying for it, so that's a good thing. I mean, you're taking that burden off.
This really was a great outcome. I think this was the proverbial win-win. It was a great for the Y because the Butler-Gast YMCA had been very expensive to maintain and was outdated, and there's been a lot of improvements since then. So one of the great benefits to the new facility will be it'll have all new e-gym equipment, which has proven to be hugely appealing to people and actually gets good health outcomes. You log in, you swipe your card, you have your own profile. It tells you what workout to do. It tells you how you're improving. It keeps track of that. And the research shows that people are motivated to come back. And so between that and the school and the pride and the excitement, I mean, it's been so fun to see the excitement online and in person with North High grads who are saying, finally, like, we're getting what we should have had a long time ago. And by extension, Gene Haynes, who's the beloved former principal, who's been advocating for this.
Great man. He's so awesome.
So yeah, this is really one of those true win-win situations, and I think that first football game is going to be amazingly fun.
And emotional, too.
And a hard ticket to get.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be sold out. Well, Tre, I tell you what, you are a pillar of progress in the community, so is the Lozier Foundation. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us on the Pillars of Progress podcast.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.